What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why Tesla's continuing to make lower highs and lower lows, which you should be watching for the next couple of days as we have lots of catalysts coming out. Not to mention news about Tesla, but just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If deposits $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY in uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with this market. So zooming out of Tesla, I just want to make it very clear that we're consistently making lower highs and lower lows. We had this high all the way up here back around the middle of December, ever since that FOMC meeting. And then we saw Tesla just making a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high over and over again, continuing this downtrend. Now, when you zoom in, you can see Tesla was trying to balance. We had an inverse head and shoulders like structure, but we had to break our 50 EMA to really start going. And ever since Friday/Thursday, I would say we came short of breaking these EMAs, and we saw this thing reject ever since. So with that happening, Tesla's forming wicks. It's rejecting the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly are all looking weaker, and there's going to be a good chance of this dipping towards these lows. Now, even though we are dipping for now, there's no guarantee it's going to last forever because we have another big catalyst that's coming up. And I'll talk about what the catalyst is, what big news is coming out for the future. I'll talk about that first, and I'll break down more details about this chart. The first thing is involving Tesla. Tesla has made an announcement that the Model S and Model X could have refreshes later this year. Obviously, Tesla's not officially confirmed this, but we have some executives that are saying that this is what they're planning on doing. So we'll see if Tesla officially makes these announcements, right? I don't believe it until I officially hear them do this. So we're going to wait and see. But for now, this is going to be very important. And if they do end up giving us more refreshes like this could be great news. So we'll give this some time. We'll see how it ends up going, at least for them, and if this announcement ends up coming out soon. On top of this, Tesla's cutting prices on the Model Y in their inventory. I went over the specific numbers in my morning video. You can see the numbers right over here. It depends on if they qualify for credits or not. With the federal credits, they could go down to about $34,000 for the prior generation RWD Model Y. And then for the AWD, it goes to about $36,000 with the credits included. That's before taxes and fees. And then the new all-wheel drive launch edition Model Y is going to be at about $52,000 with the credits. So those are the changes we're seeing. The reason why they're doing these discounted prices is because they want to essentially get rid of the old inventory because they're getting ready for the new Model Y refresh. Very awesome stuff. Hopefully that helps their sales. Now, there was another big piece of news that came out. You guys can see that Tesla's preparing their FSD launch in China, so it's going to be important, happening in the city streets. So this is big news that's been coming out. They're basically going to be rolling out their advanced driving assist features similar to those offered by FSD that's supervised in the USA. This is like a supervised FSD they're trying to launch, and this is big news. According to sources, this is going to be rolling out very, very soon. It's going to allow Tesla owners in China to use advanced driving assist features on city streets. And then one thing that's very good is that it's going to be able to handle exits, intersections, traffic signals, turns, lane changes, and speed adjustments. Very similar to the supervised FSD. I think that this is going to be very, very big in China, collecting a lot more data. And who knows, this may even eventually push for much larger changes. Obviously, there's lots of regulations that they have to get past in order for them to fully launch FSD in China. I don't think we're anywhere close to that for now, but they are getting closer with the supervised version and factors like that. There's some progress being made, but fully autonomous vehicles in China is still a long way away. So just keep that in mind. Despite that, this is a move in the right direction. Tesla's making a lot of progress. And I can't wait to see what else the future holds for them. I just want to put all of this out there. For other pieces of news, don't forget that the whole market had a very, very nuanced day. So what happened was we ended up seeing some tickers a little bit weaker. If you look at like different sectors, such as tech was a lot weaker. Looking at Nvda, the big Magnificent Seven, almost all of them were in the red, except for like Aapl, which is outperforming to some extent. We saw Berkshire Hathaway pump after their earnings came out. They made some good announcements about their projected profitability. However, they are holding record amounts of cash, and there's a very, very mixed looking sector right now. So if you look at like finance, it's very mixed, retail's mixed, consumer durables are a little bit more red, and most tickers are kind of flat for now. Despite that, futures and our ETFs like SPY, the QQQ, and the Russell 2000 are in the red. So right now, the bears have a bigger edge. What's going on? Let's talk about some some world news. Excuse me. Then I'll talk about what's happening with Tesla. So as a reminder, Donald Trump is going to be announcing more tariffs and giving us more updates about this. I would say, namely next week, maybe not as much this week. Keep in mind, we had about 100% tariffs on all Chinese goods, with some exceptions. There were some exceptions for goods under $800 that took effect on February 4th. And then for Canada and Mexico, keep in mind that we have a 25% tariffs on most goods being proposed and 10% on Canadian energy, including petroleum and natural gas. That has been delayed up until March 4th, which is about next week. So we'll see what happens. Is this going to be another negotiation tactic, or is this about to be imposed? If they are, that could have a big effect on the stock market and the US economy. So we'll see about that. For now, this could cause more volatility in the markets, especially for next week. We also have 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum for most nations, taking effect on March 12th. So I expect a lot of volatility in March going into April with all this tariff news that's going to be back. And then for all nations, we have reciprocal tariffs. The deadline for review is going to be April 1st. We'll see when Trump gives us an announcement about that. But keep in mind, this is what's leading to some fears amongst our data with higher inflationary expectations and the nuances we saw in the data from last week, especially with our PMI report showing declines in business activity. Right? When consumers anticipate that there's going to be higher prices and more fear, it affects their actions in the present. That's something that's taught in economics, right? It has a big effect on consumer psychology. So for example, like a lot of people are going to be like expecting, higher prices for food, higher prices for things like toilet paper, and the list goes on. It's going to be affecting their practices and things like that, especially when more tariff news comes out. So this is affecting U.S. businesses and the current sentiment amongst investors. There's also a lot of fear about higher inflation, at least for the short term. So just keep that in mind. But we're waiting to see what Donald Trump is gonna say next week. So wait for that. For tomorrow, it's going to be Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Keep in mind that it's 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Consumer Confidence Report, which might not be that great, looking at how confidence is kind of like decreasing to some extent. Then we have the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index and shipments, not to mention the Services Revenue Index. So all this data may cause some more volatility. And then we have some Fed speakers later on. But that's pretty much it. Look for some high volatility at the 10 a.m. hour Eastern Standard Time. 30 minutes after the stock market opens tomorrow, look for some volatility with this data coming out. And then keep in mind, there's a lot of fear right now in the markets that's making up the majority of sentiment. There's a lot of fear. People are very, very anxious about, the tariffs, the news that's coming out, and the inflationary expectations. So just keep that in mind. Momentum is at fear right now. We're at extreme fear. The market's becoming very fearful. The put to call option ratio is going up because people are buying a lot more shorts. So the puts are back, the shorts are back. Volatility is neutral. The VIX has been pumping quite a bit. It's not quite at the super fearful level yet, but it's getting closer. And besides that, in my personal opinion, what's going to be affecting this whole market is not just the tariffs next week, but I think that we have Nvidia's earnings in just a couple of days. I think that's going to be the first major catalyst we have to be paying attention to. So Apple made an announcement that they want to be investing over $500 billion into the US over the next 4 years. They want to hire 20,000 people and build a new server factory in Texas. Bullish news for them. Nvidia, however, is making a lot of headlines, especially considering the fact that we have earnings very soon. I'm not going to read too much about today's earnings. We saw Berkshire Hathaway give good guidance, which is why the share price was up. But then for tomorrow, we have the Home Depot and Planet Fitness, not to mention AMC. And then for Wednesday, we have Lowe's in the morning, followed by Nvidia after market close. Nvidia will be accompanied by Snow, AI, and Salesforce announcing earnings. But keep in mind, Nvidia is a big one. Nvidia is going to be a make or break for the markets. So Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, everything is on a bit of a downtrend for now, but whether or not the downtrend continues for now is going to depend a lot on NVIDIA. That's one of the bigger factors for now. I think that's going to be having a very, very big ripple effect on the whole market, so please keep that in mind. That's going to be very, very key for the way we end up moving. So with that being said, that is it for my news update, my data update. I now just want to talk to you guys about what's happening with the charts, what's going on from this point on. So as far as Tesla's going, we are technically a little bit more bearish. Why do I say that? We're making lower highs and lower lows, like I mentioned earlier. We're not doing the best of signs or the best of jobs at trying to get a bounce. And for now, the sellers have a much larger edge on the stock. I also want to note that there's a very, very, very common pattern on Tesla. I think the daily chart might show this. So what happens is Tesla starts higher. We get a little pump in the morning, then we reject. Pump in the morning, reject. It happens over and over and over again. This happened many, many times. And that could be part of why Tesla's kind of like performing this way, right? We saw this happen a bunch of times where Tesla tried to push in the morning and got a rejection. This happened about 3 to 4 days in a row. So the daily looks a little bit more bearish. I do think we're going to be making equal lows and retesting the lows from before. And then notice the trend where on Friday, actually, I think it's like Thursday. I think Thursday is when the stars we pushed up, rejected. Friday we pushed up, rejected. Today we pushed up and rejected. It's the same pattern over and over again on Tesla and for the markets. So what's going to likely happen is this. Let me make this very clear. If you want to be bullish on Tesla, you want to see this thing get back above 340 at the very least and hold that. If we can't hold above 340, there's a chance we see a little push to the upside for the mid 330s. Then we could reject and revisit these lows right here all the way down towards like 320 or so. And we'll see if we try to bounce here or try to hold this or not. There's a strong support right here, very close to 320. So look for a push and a dip to about 325, and we'll see if we bounce. But I do see a move like this as the most likely possibility. Also, keep in mind that we're on a bit of a downtrend, so we'll see how this ends up going, but keep that in mind for now. We are looking a little bit weaker on Tesla. For SPY, okay, SPY is also looking a little bit weaker. You look at SPY, we have this yellow trend line of resistance. We hit this, rejected, rejected, rejected. We tried to break this, and then we got a rejection again back below the yellow trend line. Notice that we bounced it. We tried to retest this. I said if we broke this, we're bullish. If you reject and lose 602, we're bearish, and that's what happened. The bearish case played out. And then if you look at the last 3 days, just like Tesla, we pumped, rejected, pumped, rejected, pumped, rejected over and over and over again. So it's very, very bearish, at least in that regard. We keep on rejecting. We haven't lost major support yet. The main support is like this. If we continue to fall, we're looking for 594 as our target. If we break past 599.5, we could try to bounce. My gut tells me we could try to rebound just a bit for the 599 area. But if we can't get back above 599.5, we might be slowly declining for like 594 for a small dip approaching Nvidia's earnings. And if 594 fails, let's look for 590, then 584 as our targets. I want to see us get back above 602 to be bullish, but there's no sign of that. We favor a small rebound and a rejection move. For now, that's what we've been doing for the last 3 days as we look a bit more bearish. So as a reminder, guys, it's not Tesla's fault that it's bearish. The market's coming down altogether, and that's what's dragging Tesla down. There's also some fear amongst the overall economy and these tariffs and inflation, which is very sensitive for Tesla. So like I said before, we could be making a move all the way down like this before Tesla attempts some kind of like bounce. But look for a little bit more downside. We could be dipping closer to the low 320s with the overall market. It's not just Tesla, it's the whole market that's coming down. And then also, I just want to note that when the QQQ or NASDAQ is down 1%, you would be expecting Tesla to be down about 2% with a beta of 2.0. That's exactly what Tesla did. It's down 2.15%. So this is completely normal for Tesla to be down with the overall market. It's completely normal, guys. Keep that in mind. For the QQQ, the same thing is going on. We had a high up here, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high, came down. Even today, we made a lower high, and then we came down. We're continuing to do that. If we break past 522, we're looking for 525 plus. If we continue to fall, we're looking for essentially this 518 area. If that fails us, we're looking for a dump for 516. Overall, as we're making lower highs, I'm anticipating the same thing to continue. A retest of 522 or so, then a rejection, and move all the way down towards 518 to 516. So keep that in mind. And we'll see if we get a bounce or not from there. But I just want to make it very clear we're going to likely continue to decline for 518 to 516. So I'm anticipating we're going to be making lower highs and lower lows for now on the QQQ. Unless we could hold above 522 to 525, we are still favoring downside. Might rebound tomorrow morning for 522 before it rejects, but we are going to be at risk of 518 to 516. So that's at least approaching Nvidia's earnings. Things could change after that, but for now, we do look a bit more bearish. For other factors out there, we also have the Russell 2000. We are making lower highs. So we had this high here, came down, made a lower high, came down, and we're continuing to do that. So it's not the best of news. I also want to mention that we got this rejection, made a lower high, rejected, lower high, rejected. The Russell's also coming down. So we have the support down here around this 214 to 215 area. There's a good chance we may continue to decline, unfortunately. So for now, there might be a little bit more downside coming. We could rebound for 217 and eventually revisit the support. That's where this low is right here. We may just make equal lows. And then we'll see if we bounce or not after Nvidia's earnings, but I do anticipate a bit more downside. For ES, the same setup. We're making lower highs and lower lows. Please keep that in mind. We're looking relatively weak as we're continuing to downtrend. Notice this on ES. So as far as ES is going, We had this resistance where we rejected, bounced, rejected, bounced, rejected. We broke through the resistance and came right back down. So we're watching this trend line, but we're actually below it. So we could rebound just a little bit, but if we have to reclaim this trend line to bounce for 6,070, we need to get back above the yellow line to bounce. If we can't do that, we're going to be at risk of dipping towards 59.80 or below, all the way down to where this imbalance is around 59.65. So I favor downside, a little rebound and rejection as the most likely possibilities. For NQ, NQ is kind of rejecting as well. We had a rejection, a rejection, rejection. We're also looking at this blue trend line right here. So we tried to rebound and then rejected. So in my honest view, guys, I think there's a very, very good chance that we are showing weakness because we failed to hold above the blue trend line, as you guys can see. So we're looking for 21,400 to hold. If not, we could be dumping for about 21,300. So a move like this is very much just expected for now until we get to Nvidia's earnings. If we get back above the blue trend line, we could try to bounce. We'll turn back to bullish, at least to some extent. As long as we're below that, we are favoring downside, and this is still, once again, favoring downside for 21,300. Bitcoin's looking bearish. Even as I speak, it's selling off, so there's more risk for the downside. Going to be looking for 91,500 to be tested, still making lower highs and lower lows. Unfortunately, the bears have a bigger edge. Nvidia has potential. And here's the thing about Nvidia, it all depends on earnings. Do we have good guidance or not? Do we wow investors? There is the possibility of an inverse head and shoulders, but it's not a guarantee. If Nvidia's earnings are poor, we could just dump all the way down like this and it could just fail. But if they do well, I do expect this to pan out and we're going to be making a full recovery move. It depends on earnings, how they end up going. For the short term, I could be looking for a little bit more downside. Watch 130 if that fails us. We have 129 and 126 as support. If we get back above 132, we're looking for 134. So we're kind of in the middle, but this is favoring a move back down towards 129 to 126. So there could be some downside coming, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But for now, we do look a little bit more bearish. Apple has been outperforming the markets because of the good news that came out with the inverse head and shoulders setup. We need to lose 244 to turn bearish. As long as we're above that, we favor 248 to 250. So like a dip and a bounce for that 250 area. And we'll see what kind of reaction we get from at least a little bit later. So far, it remains very resilient. Like I said before about Tesla, we're still bearish, we're still rejecting, so that's underperforming compared to its other big tech partners. Looking at Netflix, we look a bit more bearish as we're making lower highs and lower lows. We were not able to hold above this yellow trend line. We're actually rejecting, so we're going to be at risk of returning to about 975. So be very, very careful. For MSTR, keep in mind that we are continuing to fall. We're losing this trend line right here. I'm not going to worry about that for now. We look bearish nonetheless. We look bearish. We have a gap to fill. I could be looking for us to revisit 270, which is where we have this resistance and this gap. So I could see a little bit more downside on the chart as we look a bit more bearish. We could be declining for 270 very, very soon. For others out there, we have Celsius. Exactly as I predicted, a bit of decline that was coming. We could be continuing to fall back down towards 30, then eventually 29.02. So watch and see how this ends up moving. But for now, the downside risk is still right there. So keep that in mind, guys. That is, once again, very, very important. For other factors out there, we have Supermicro. Supermicro is also on a bit of a downtrend. We'll have to see if we can hold 48. We have 1548 as our targets. If we break past 54.25, we could bounce, but I do see us downtrending and kind of dipping for 48. For Palantir, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're looking for essentially 87.8 to be coming. If that fails us, I think we fill the gap back down to the low 80s. So it looks bearish to me. For Rivian, we're on a bit of a downtrend as well. I would like to see it try to reclaim 12.5 to bounce. Otherwise, I think we consolidate here and continue to fall for 11.5. There's still weakness on the setup. No sign of a bounce yet, despite the fact that it's trying to base. For SoFi, we have a weak setup. Unfortunately, there's like a possible left shoulder ahead of the right shoulder. We might be visiting this low around 13.8 to 14, so we could dip a bit more, and we'll see if we bounce or not. If we don't bounce there, we're looking for a much bigger decline to the 13, so be careful with the inverse head and shoulders. For AMD, we're on a downtrend. We're making lower highs and lower lows. We'll have to see if we break past the resistance. Otherwise, we could be dumping even more all the way down towards 106. So be careful, guys, as we continue to downtrend. For ARM, we're also making lower highs and lower lows. We're rejecting many, many times. So there's going to be a risk of us dipping back down towards 138 and 135. I think there's a very good chance we end up declining, so be very, very careful. For Coinbase, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're looking for 225 and 220 as potential target, not to mention 216. So I do favor downwards pressure as we're making lower highs. So I favor downside as a stronger possibility. For Amazon, we're making lower highs as well. In my honest opinion, I think we're looking for essentially 212, not to mention the 210 area to be tested. We need to get back above 215. It's very important we reclaim this very important support. As long as we're below this, we still favor 210, unfortunately. For Meta, we're looking bearish. We have not bounced yet. We're looking for 660. It's about 657 for where we try to base most likely. I could see a bit more downside before it tries to bounce. For Microsoft, we look a bit more bearish as we're making lower highs right now. What is good though is we formed this nice wick right here. So I would like to see that, I would like to see us try to base at that 402 area before it tries to rebound a little bit. So look for a test of 402 and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. Google may also retest 180 to 178 before it bounces for a little bit more downside. So just be careful. GameStop has a head and shoulders, left shoulder, head and then right shoulder, which could be taking us down to about 24.5. AMC, left shoulder, head then right shoulder, which could be dragging us down towards all the way down to 3.2, excuse me. DJT could be dipping to about 25, then 24.5. The VIX is looking a little bit more bullish. It might try to uptrend a bit more, but this is going to be dependent on Nvidia's earnings, whether this gets a rug pull or not. We're very close to Nvidia's earnings in just a couple of days. The 10-year is very flat, looking a little bit more bearish, and so is the dollar. This is going to depend on FOMC and also on inflationary numbers, but this is not really affecting the market as much as it typically does. So with that being said, guys, Tesla and the market look a bit more bearish, so don't be surprised if we see a little bit more downside tomorrow. We do have a strong support near this like 320 to 325 area, so I wouldn't be surprised if we visit this and consolidate, so get ready for that. And then we'll see what the big reaction is depending on some more news that comes out. Yes, for now we're bearish, but it all depends on the big dog. It depends on what Nvidia is going to give us. Get ready for their earnings, which is going to be on Wednesday after market close. That's just less than 2 days away. So we have tomorrow, then we have one more day, and then that's it. And then we have Nvidia's earnings, and we have to be very, very ready. So that's going to be the make or break for the market. That's the big catalyst. That's going to be affecting whether we get a rug pull or not. Make sure you're prepared, guys, and get ready. Do what you have to do. And I thank you all so much for listening. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow before market open, and peace out.